I'm going to pose you some questions. Let me charge you with the first one. We've spoken a lot today about infrastructure. Now, it's been probably one of the biggest subjects. And Philip,
yes,
you're just about to open Scotland's first public access biomethane refuelling station over the other side of the trees, just over there. What can you tell us about whether infrastructure is a problem?
So, first of all, thank you for a great event so far. It's much needed. Transport has not necessarily done the heavy lifting it should have been doing so far in decarbonising the economy. Hopefully, going forward, that's going to happen. If you look at decarbonising, the heavy end of the HGV spectrum, we're very focused on the long haul. So these are typically the Arctics you see going up and down the motorway. There are 130,000 plus of those in the country today. We have 7, soon 8, soon 9, very large public access stations that we're opening. They are refueled using 100% biomethane, which today offer about 90% plus GHG emissions compared to diesel. By sometime next year, when we start going negative with biomethane that comes from manure, the fuel that we supply to stations will be going negative.
Right.
So we've been talking about net zero by 2050. There are solutions available next year that will actually take a fleet operator today can actually be net zero by next year. Infrastructure is what's holding us back. We would have a lot more trucks on the road today. We would have even greater GHG savings today if we would have had more stations open. So we're working our socks off generally to get more stations opened. And we're targeting we'll have about 10 open by Q1 next year. By 2026, our target is to have 60 of that size, which can each refuel about 500 trucks per day on biomethane open. But we would have come a lot further had we had more stations open, because the trucks are here. It's the infrastructure, getting back to the now broken record, but it's the infrastructure that is needed in order to really accelerate decarbonisation.
Fantastic. Is there anything holding you back opening any more?
Not really, no. So I can see Bob's here. Do we need anything more from government? No, we don't. The reality is that to develop anything that has to do with infrastructure in this country takes a very long time. Negotiating with landlords, negotiating with utilities, doing all of this stuff that people think can be done in 12 months takes 2 to 3 years.
Right.
A couple of years ago, we were being held back by the lack of the likes of Scania having large enough engines, etc., available. That's now not a problem anymore. So 2 years ago, we could blame the OEMs. Now we are to blame. Why? Because it just takes time. That's why we've tripled our land acquisition team. We're tripling our construction team so that from Q1 onwards next year, we can start building 12 of these a year. But it's taken time to get there because just dealing with landlords, getting planning permission, etc., and through COVID has been taking a lot longer than normal, has just held us all back a bit.
Thank you. HVO, Magnus. Hydro-treated vegetable oil, for those of you who can't pronounce it like me. It's an amazing fuel, and I'm going to make a little sales pitch here. It's a fuel that every Scania that's built from the factory can run on without any modification, straight from the plant. Fantastic. 90% saving on CO2 and direct replacement for diesel. It seems a secret, Magnus. Why is that?
It's not quite a secret. It's readily available. Many fleets in the UK have transitioned 100% from regular fossil diesel straight to HVO. It is a drop-in replacement, totally missable with diesel. So we have heard today about infrastructure constraints. This doesn't have that. But really, it is a transition pathway fuel. It's allowing the operators and the industry time while infrastructure catches up to allow other technology pathways to become front and central, and a great believer in technology. But technology has to be the right technology at the right time, at the right price. And so, readily available. You'll see outside a tank, there is no bounds to transition. We don't need to wait for filling stations to take the fuel. We can fill centrally fueled fleets. And very proud that a UK customer in Hovis actually were the first haulier in Europe to travel 30 million miles without one drop of fossil going into their fleet over the last 3 years. So kind of good achievements. So a secret, not, but it's now the right time to start adopting it to get to to meet our challenging targets.
Yeah. It has a massive impact on the rolling fleet. There's several hundreds of thousands of vehicles that's on the road right now that we need to reduce the impacts of their operation. HVO is an answer.
Absolutely, but we should look at advanced fuels. All of the people here, the advanced fuels have not only a greenhouse gas saving, which we are obviously COP26, and that's why we're here, but local air quality. And most of the solutions that are on offer here improve what is already a fantastically clean vehicle in the Scania fleets to an even better proposition from a local air quality perspective as well. So that shouldn't be forgotten in this transition, that fossil isn't just bad for the global economy and global climate, it's our local air quality that's impacted as well.
Good point, thank you. Dickon, can I ask you a question? I think we're clear that renewables are not being used enough in the common fleet today. For example, high blend biodiesel. But why is that fuel not getting used enough? What's your opinion?
Yeah, it's a really important point. Firstly, I think I just want to quickly back up. I know it's been said to death today, and absolutely rightly, no single silver bullet. And I think Mike's presentation described that very well. I just want to, in terms of the scale of things, I've recently seen a draft analysis of the emissions trading scheme for Europe, and putting it against the Renewable Energy Directive. It looks like the ETS is going to be demanding by 2030 double the amount of renewables in transport than the Renewable Energy Directive. The scale of what we've got ahead of us is huge. So everything that's here, everything that's been talked about, we need all of it and some. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
We all have different opportunities, and yes, there's pros and cons and fits and not such good fits. But there is a fit for everything that is on offer here. Why isn't it being done more? Well, you've also, and Philip mentioned something, some things have been addressed, some things less addressed, and so on and so forth. So it's horses for courses. And this is one of the difficulties that DFT's got, and Bob's team's got, in trying to make sure it's balanced and effective. There's a real temptation, and I see this in Europe as much as in the UK and other countries in Europe, where there is a tendency for politicians to get fixed on certain solutions. It's much easier. We all do the same thing. It's much easier to do that. But we need to be able to stand back and take an overview of this decarbonisation and make sure that everything is supported. And so, for example, high blend biofuels, it's been around, it's been around for ages. Why isn't it used more? It's pretty simple, actually. All you need is demand, you need a market, you need the supply, you need the stuff, the technology. Well, let's say that all of us here are going to say, yeah, we can supply it. The technology, that can be something, some reason, I'll come on to that in a second. And then there's the policy. Policy creates the market for all our fuels, 100%. So it's absolutely down to the legislation to create that demand. And everybody here has shown, including Argent, and we've doubled, we're going to triple, we're going to quadruple, we've got plans for much more production across Europe. We're reacting directly to the legislation. So it is down to legislators. And what I would say in terms of high blends is that at the moment there isn't an incentive for people to go to high blends. There is 7%, but we can go to B30 across, everything that's available that Magnus hasn't taken with his HVO or Philip hasn't converted to. And genuinely, we need to do everything. And so, but you could do 300% more in terms of the renewables with that policy. There's one little technology hitch with the B30, which is that the warranties of engines. But it's not that it's a lack of intention, and actually Scania have led the way, and I think have got a real interest in doing more of that. And that simply means that the operators, and those people, your customers who will meet tonight, hopefully, can then say, yes, I want the electric in the future and the hydrogen, But in the meantime, let's get as much non-fossil in place of that diesel.
Yes. Absolutely. Good answer. David, Scania just brought to the UK market a brand new 6x2 LNG. It's a well in development, bespoke for our market, and very pleased to have it here, and pleased to confirm a lot of demand in this just the first month of us announcing it here. But liquefied biogas, LNG, where are we going with it?
So we've seen significant increase in demand, and it's great to see the vehicle next door. It looks really fantastic. Yep. I think we saw significant triple-digit growth in what we were delivering in terms of bio-LNG last year. And we've got now 11 out of 20 stations are delivering bio-LNG in the UK. I think there's going to be solutions. There's customers who are going to work. CNG is going to work. It's going to be the best solution for them. There's customers that, with their operations today, bio-LNG will be that case. We're focused on both producing bio-LNG, and we've got 20 minutes up the road. We've got biofuels being produced off food waste in Scotland, but also delivering those to customers. And one of those challenges is actually understanding where the need is. People will look at the truck and then think about the infrastructure afterwards to some extent. And it's actually getting the right solutions in the right place at the right time, I think, which is what we've heard. So some of what we've done is working with customers to find solutions that can be delivered on depot that can then evolve to a more central facility. So we've got a larger facility coming in the new year in Avonmouth. I mean, that has taken 16 months to get planning permission. And that's one of the drags on the process. But we've also delivered sort of quicker response solutions. We delivered a customer solution on the eve of lockdown within a week because we had an asset sitting there. We dropped into a site which allowed them to kind of evolve. So there's a whole mixture of different opportunities there in terms of where we go. But we definitely see a need for more investment, more players in the market, more evolution. We're not going to do it all on our own as Air Liquide. It's good to have all of these players and all these discussions in there because there is a big need to find solutions for 25, 2030, as well as those fantastically exciting 2050 visions.
Absolutely. Here's a question to all of you, who we can answer whoever's first out the traps. But what's holding us back? Is it policy? Is it operators? Is it manufacturers? Where is the biggest opportunity in terms of adoption?
If I could be so bold to start that, and I'm sure everyone else will chip in. I think, and it's been touched on a few times in different conversations, it's really that sort of certainty of legislation and support. And I think Dickon's point is very good, which is high blend biodiesels, whatever, or biomethane or biogas or LNG, need to be distinguished from the fossil cousin. It's actually a better use of B30 is a better use of a fuel properly engineered than a B7 poorly engineered through the pump network. So really, I think that there needs to be reward structure for the carbon reduction of a fuel rather than just the fact that it's inverted commas in that category.
Excellent. Anyone? Philip?
So just another, I think, comment, and that is that first of all, we've got a huge mountain to climb with regards to decarbonising the HGV sector. It's great with visions for what's going to come in the future, but those visions are, as with all visions, they will never turn out exactly how we think they are today because things will emerge that we didn't know about, and timelines have a tendency to slip. So where we're coming from, it's about doing as much as we can with the tools we've got today. And if we turn that around to our customers, we founded the company 8 years ago. It took us 4 or 5 years to really convince a fairly small customer base initially that this was a prudent way to go. It was a sustainable way to go. The trucks worked. We could provide the fuel. They could get 100% RTFO approved biomethane from a waste feedstock, etc., etc. Now we've reached a tipping point where customers are pulling more demand off us than we can supply. So I would say that at this point in time, we're in a the way I've explained it before, we've been pushing this snowball up a hill for a long, long time. The snowball's reached the top and is now running down the hill, and we're running after it. In the sense that and what can we do to make sure that we maximize the benefits of that runaway snowball, which is now our customer base. It is we need support of OEMs eventually to make sure that they can produce enough trucks. I know it's challenging as of today with component shortages, so I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just explaining it. We need certainty from government, of course, on policy, RTFO being one of those, and we need industry, like us, to work harder, to do more, to provide more infrastructure. So I would say we're actually got a nice problem today, but it's all about collaboration, where we as an industry can do a lot, as a private industry can do a lot, but we also need the OEMs to come along with us, and we need government to provide the certainty we've got on policy.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I very much sort of focus on government and legislation as the key, but they have to be informed by industry about how it's good. They're not going to be the experts. So we have to translate to them how it can work, that it can work, it's got to demonstrate it, and that we can supply it. Because the last thing they want to do is put legislation in and then not be able to make the target. Yeah. What if we go wrong? So we've got to work really closely with them. But it does come down to what targets you set. Every time you set a target up, we'll go and invest and we'll do it. Because we know that's creating the market. And if you look at what Christian said this morning, which I thought was a great example of how far we've got to go, and I think it was something like 2040, 90% of requirements is going to be for liquid fuels. That's the kind of scale of stuff that we need to be addressing with the OEMs and government to see how much of that we can displace with things.
I would just add in terms of, I think it was earlier, Andreas and Jenny talked about setting a target for 2025 and actually how challenging that made in terms of that. And I appreciate that we've got and Bob's challenges, we've got to people aligning to a 2050 net zero, and how the hell do we not confuse people out of it? But I think if we don't set an ambition now for what we can do in the near term and the technologies there, that needs to sit alongside it. It's not contradictory. Yeah. It's what we're doing now to take CO2 out of the cycle, and it's vital.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
The other thing we could do with is a name like Pantograph, which makes me think of an Ann Summers sort of analysis of sales or something like that. But we need that in the liquid fuels world as well.
Let me just be a bit cheeky. Can you guys supply? Have you got enough manufacturing? Can our customers get hold of what they need if they do make the conversion?
So I think from the liquid drop-in replacements, the high blend biodiesels and HVOs or advanced fuels that will operate in the classic rolling fleet that we see so much of today, absolutely. And the risk is very low for that industry because they can always transgress back to a fossil so when you look, you've got to look at the risk profile of all of the technology pathways. Those really, it's our fuels in a way that need to give the runway while OEMs catch up and build out, and the infrastructure catches up, because that's what we can do absolutely right now, right here, right now. But I wouldn't underestimate that that needs stable legislation and maybe just a rejigging of what is the value of carbon, not only to the people here, Scania and the like, but to the country as a whole, and that needs to be priced in with the actual carbon reduction that all these fuels offer, but currently it's delinked.
And bearing in mind the way the liquid fuels are going to be coming out of the car and van,
yes,
not this year, not in 5 years, not significantly, but in certainly 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So ramping up from what are we now, 5-6% renewables in an HGV on average, ramping that up to an average of 20 or 30% across the fleet, easily doable.
Easily done. You heard it here, folks. Easily done. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.